The contract was signed. Victoria smiled as she claimed the $789 million from her ex-fiancé. Then the boardroom doors burst open. A small girl in tattered clothes walked straight to the table. "That's not right," she whispered, pointing to line 37. But no one imagined what would come next. "Where are you watching from today?" Hit the like button and subscribe for more incredible stories that will touch your heart. Robert Anderson stared out the window of his penthouse office, watching Chicago's skyline glitter in the afternoon sun. At 30, he had built Anderson Technologies from the ground up, transforming a college dorm room startup into a billion-dollar empire. But today his empire was in danger. "Mr. Anderson, they're here," his assistant Megan announced, her voice tight with concern. Rob straightened his tie and took a deep breath. "Send them in." The boardroom doors opened, revealing Victoria Mills, his ex-fiancée and former chief financial officer, flanked by 3 attorneys. Her blonde hair was pulled into a severe bun, and her red-bottom heels clicked aggressively against the marble floor. The engagement ring he'd given her 6 months ago was noticeably absent. "Robert," she said coolly, "you're looking well." "Cut the pleasantries, Victoria. Let's get this over with." Victoria's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Of course. Time is money, isn't it? Speaking of which, I believe you owe me quite a bit of it." Rob's lawyer, Henry Goldman, leaned forward. "My client disputes your claim to company shares valued at $789 million. The prenuptial agreement, clearly." "The prenuptial agreement," Victoria interrupted, "was contingent upon a marriage that your client cancelled 3 days before the wedding, after I had already invested 5 years of my life and expertise into building his company." Rob clenched his jaw. "You know why I cancelled it?" "Because you found me in bed with your driver." "Please, Robert, grow up. This is business." Henry opened a folder. "Nevertheless, Ms. Mills, the contract you signed when joining the company clearly states—" "I've amended that contract," Victoria smirked, sliding a document across the table. "Check clause 37B. Your client signed this update 6 months ago, granting me full vested interest regardless of our personal relationship status." Rob snatched the document, his face paling. "I never signed this." Victoria's attorney, a shark-eyed man in a tailored suit, spoke up. "That's your signature, Mr. Anderson, notarized and legally binding." "This is forgery," Rob hissed. "Prove it," Victoria challenged. "Meanwhile, I'll be freezing company assets until my payout is complete." Rob's world began to crumble. His signature looked authentic. Had he signed this during the chaotic weeks following their breakup? He couldn't remember. With Anderson Technologies on the verge of launching its revolutionary medical implant, this couldn't have come at a worse time. "You'll destroy everything we built," he said quietly. "No, Robert, just everything you built." Victoria reached for the fountain pen to sign the final transfer papers. The boardroom door suddenly creaked open. All heads turned to see a small girl, perhaps 8 years old, standing in the doorway. Her brown hair hung in tangled waves, and her clothes were clearly second-hand. A faded blue dress and scuffed sneakers. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, but there was a fierce intelligence in her gaze. "You can't be in here," Megan appeared behind her. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Anderson." She slipped past reception somehow. "That's not right," the girl said, pointing at the document on the table. "Line 37. A stunned silence fell over the room. "Get that child out of here," Victoria demanded. But Rob raised his hand. "Wait." Something about the girl's steady gaze held him transfixed. "What about line 37, sweetheart?" The girl approached the table without hesitation. "The date's wrong," she said, tapping the paper. "It says it was signed on February 30th. There's no February 30th. Rob stared at the contract, his heart pounding. The girl was right. The document claimed to have been signed on February 30th, an impossible date. How had none of them caught that? Victoria's face flushed crimson. "A simple typo, it doesn't invalidate." Actually, Henry interrupted, suddenly energized, it does. A falsified date on a notarized document constitutes fraud. He turned to Victoria's lawyer. Your notary certified an impossible date, Mr. Caldwell. I'd say that warrants a full investigation into all documents handled by your firm. Victoria slammed her hand on the table. This is absurd. A child wanders in, and you're taking legal advice from her. The girl didn't flinch. She stood her ground, clutching a worn backpack to her chest. Rob noticed her hands were clean, but her fingernails bitten to the quick. Who was this child? Megan, please take... Rob paused, realizing he didn't know the girl's name. Emily, she supplied softly. Please take Emily to the break room for a snack. I'll be there shortly. He turned to the fuming Victoria. I believe this meeting is adjourned. This isn't over, Robert, Victoria hissed, as her lawyers frantically gathered their papers. Oh, but I think it is, Rob replied, feeling the weight lifting from his shoulders. Henry, contact the police. I want fraud charges filed immediately. As Victoria and her legal team fled the boardroom, Rob approached the little girl who had just saved his company. She was already halfway to the door with Megan. Emily, he called. Wait! She turned, her expression wary but hopeful. How did you know to look for that? How did you even get in here? Emily shifted uncomfortably. I'm good with calendars, and buildings like this always have service entrances with deliveries. I just waited and walked in behind a flower guy. Rob knelt to her level. Why would you do that? Why help me? Her brown eyes, strangely familiar, met his. I need milk for my brother. He's just a baby and we ran out yesterday. I thought maybe if I helped you, you could help us. She bit her lip. I've been watching your building for 3 days. The newspaper said you were having an important meeting today. Something twisted in Rob's chest. This child had saved him from financial ruin, and all she wanted was milk for her baby brother. Where are your parents, Emily? Her chin trembled slightly before she steadied it. Mum died last month. It's just me and Theo now. And your father? Mum said he didn't know about me. She said he was important and busy. Rob felt a chill run down his spine. How old are you, Emily? 8. Almost 9 next month. 8 years ago, he had been a struggling college senior, dating a nursing student named Sarah before they'd gone their separate ways when she transferred to another school. The timing matched. And those eyes, they were the same deep brown as his mother's. Emily, he asked carefully, what was your mother's name? Sarah Matthews. The floor seemed to tilt beneath Rob's feet. Sarah. She'd never told him she was pregnant, never asked for anything, and now her daughter, possibly his daughter, stood before him, asking only for milk for her baby brother. And Theo? Who is his father? Emily looked down. Mum said his dad is in prison. His name is Michael Anderson. Rob's heart stopped. Michael, his estranged brother. The break room fell silent, except for the gentle hum of the refrigerator. Emily sat at the conference table, her small legs dangling from the ergonomic chair designed for adults 3 times her size. She sipped chocolate milk through a straw, eyeing the platter of sandwiches Megan had arranged before tactfully excusing herself. Rob sat across from her, his mind racing. Emily, where are you and Theo staying right now? She hesitated, then set down her cup. Mrs. Finch from downstairs watches Theo when I go looking for food or work. Her eyes aren't good, so I read her mail to her, and she lets us sleep on her couch. And before your mother passed away, Rob couldn't bring himself to say died to this child who had already endured too much. We had an apartment, but then the landlord came 2 weeks after the funeral and said we couldn't stay. Emily's face remained stoic, but her small fingers tightened around the cup. I packed what I could carry for me and Theo. Rob struggled to maintain his composure. Emily, I need to ask you something important. Did your mother leave anything for you? Any letters or documents? Emily nodded and reached into her backpack, pulling out a worn envelope. She said to keep this safe and find you if things got really bad. She pushed it across the table. Things got really bad last night when Theo cried for hours because he was hungry. Rob's hands trembled as he opened the envelope. Inside was a birth certificate listing Robert Anderson as the father, a handwritten letter addressed to him, and a faded photograph of a younger Sarah holding a newborn Emily. His throat tightened as he unfolded the letter. "Rob, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and Emily found you. I'm sorry I never told you about our daughter. When I discovered I was pregnant, you were just starting your company. You talked about changing the world, and I didn't want to hold you back. Maybe that was wrong. Emily is smart, brilliant actually. She gets that from you. She deserves better than what I could give her alone. Please take care of her. She's the best of both of us. Sarah." Rob looked up to find Emily studying him intently. "You're my dad," she stated matter-of-factly. It wasn't a question. Rob nodded slowly. "I think I am, Emily. But we'll do a test to make sure, okay?" A wave of emotions crashed over him, anger at Sarah for keeping this secret, grief for what he'd missed, and a sudden fierce protectiveness toward the child sitting before him. "And Theo? He's really my brother's son?" Emily nodded. "Mom was a nurse at the prison. That's how she met Michael. She said he looked just like you, but sadder." Rob hadn't spoken to Michael in 5 years, not since his brother's addiction had led to a robbery conviction. Their parents had died while Michael was serving his sentence, leaving Rob as the family's only free member. And now, apparently, its unwitting patriarch. "Mr. Anderson?" Emily's voice pulled him back. "If you're my dad, does that mean Theo and I don't have to be hungry anymore?" The simple question nearly broke him. "Yes, Emily. You never have to be hungry again. I promise." She nodded solemnly. "Then can we get milk for Theo now? And maybe some of that baby food in jars? He likes the one with pears." "We'll get everything Theo needs," Rob assured her. "But first I need to meet him. Can you take me to where you're staying?" An hour later, Rob found himself in a tiny apartment in a run-down building 20 blocks from his penthouse. Mrs. Finch, a kindly elderly woman with cataracts and arthritic hands, ushered them in with obvious relief. "Thank goodness you're back, Emily. Theo's been fussy." She squinted at Rob. "Who's this now?" "This is my dad," Emily announced with cautious pride. "He's going to help us." Theo lay in a makeshift bed of cushions on the floor, his tiny face red from crying. Rob knelt beside him, taking in the child's features. The resemblance to Michael was unmistakable, the same cleft chin and arched eyebrows that ran in the Anderson family. "Hello, nephew," Rob whispered, gently lifting the whimpering baby. 2 weeks later, Rob sat in his home office, surrounded by legal documents. Emily and Theo were sleeping down the hall in their new bedrooms of his lakeside penthouse. DNA tests had confirmed what he already knew in his heart. Emily was his daughter, and Theo was his brother, Michael's son. The door creaked open, and Emily peeked in, her hair damp from her evening bath. She wore new pajamas with stars on them, but she still moved with the careful wariness of someone unaccustomed to security. "Can't sleep?" Rob asked, setting aside his papers. Emily shook her head and padded into the room. "Is Theo really staying with us? Forever?" "Yes," Rob answered firmly. "You're both staying. Forever." "But he's not your son," Emily persisted, climbing onto the leather sofa across from his desk. "Mrs. Finch said babies get taken away if they don't have parents." Rob moved to sit beside her. "Theo has a parent, me. I've filed for guardianship. No one's taking him anywhere." "What about his real dad, your brother?" Rob sighed. "How to explain this to an 8-year-old? Michael, my brother, made some mistakes. He has to stay where he is for a few more years, but I'm going to visit him tomorrow to tell him about Theo and that we're taking care of his son." Emily considered this. "Will he be mad?" "No, sweetheart, I think he'll be grateful." "Are you mad? About me?" The question caught Rob off guard. Mad? Why would I be mad about you? Emily looked down at her hands. Because Mom didn't tell you. Because now you have to take care of me when you didn't plan to. Rob felt a pang in his chest. Emily, finding out about you is the best thing that's ever happened to me. I'm sad I missed 8 years, but I'm not mad. I'm grateful. A small smile tugged at her lips. Really? Really? He hesitated, then added, Tomorrow, after I visit Michael, would you like to come with me to my office? There's someone I'd like you to meet. Victoria, Emily asked, her voice suddenly sharp. Rob chuckled. No, definitely not Victoria. She's in quite a bit of trouble now, thanks to you. I meant my team, the people who work with me. They've been curious about the little girl who saved Anderson Technologies. Emily's eyes widened. I'm famous? A bit, Rob admitted, but I've kept your name private, your choice if you want to meet them. She nodded slowly. I'll come. But who's watching Theo? I've hired a nanny, Mrs. Chen. She's wonderful with babies. Emily's brow furrowed. Can I interview her first, to make sure she knows how Theo likes to be held? Rob suppressed a smile at her seriousness. Absolutely, first thing in the morning. After Emily finally fell asleep, Rob returned to his desk and opened his laptop. He stared at the half-written email to the prison warden requesting a visit with his brother. What would he say to Michael after 5 years of silence? How would Michael react to learning he had a son being raised by the brother who had seemingly abandoned him? The next morning, Rob sat across from his brother in the prison visiting room. Michael's once handsome face was thinner, with premature lines around his eyes, but the family resemblance remained strong. Didn't expect to see you here, Robbie, Michael said, using the childhood nickname Rob hadn't heard in years. I should have come sooner, Rob admitted. Michael shrugged. You were busy becoming a billionaire. I saw you in Forbes. There was no bitterness in his voice, just weary acceptance. Michael, there's something important I need to tell you. It's about Sarah Matthews. His brother's face softened immediately. Sarah, is she okay? Rob's chest tightened. I'm sorry, Michael. She passed away last month. Cancer. Michael closed his eyes, pain washing over his features. When he opened them again, they glistened with tears. She was a good person, visited me every week until about a year ago when she got too sick. He paused. Wait, how do you know Sarah? We dated in college before she met you. Rob took a deep breath. Michael, Sarah had a daughter, my daughter, 8 years ago, Emily, and she had a son too, your son. His name is Theo. He's 1. Michael stared at Rob, his face a mask of disbelief. I have a son? He whispered, his voice cracking. Sarah never told me she was pregnant. She didn't tell me about Emily either, Rob said gently. I only found out 2 weeks ago when Emily literally walked into my boardroom and saved my company from Victoria's attempted fraud. A flash of recognition crossed Michael's face. Victoria Mills, the woman you were going to marry. It was all over the tabloids when you broke up. The same. She nearly took everything. Rob pulled out his phone and showed Michael a photo of Theo and Emily that he'd taken yesterday. Emily's been caring for Theo since Sarah died. They were homeless when Emily found me. Michael's hands trembled as he reached for the phone, his eyes devouring the image of his son. He has Mom's eyes, he said hoarsely, and Sarah's smile. He looked up at Rob. Where are they now? Living with me. I filed for guardianship of Theo and formal adoption of Emily, though that's just a legality, since I'm already her biological father. Michael rubbed his hand over his face. I don't get out for another 3 years, Rob. What happens to Theo until then? He stays with me and Emily. We're family, Michael, all of us. Rob leaned forward. I've let you down these past 5 years. I was angry and hurt when you got arrested, and I convinced myself staying away was better for both of us. I was wrong. Michael's jaw clenched. I don't want your pity, Rob. This isn't pity. It's an apology. And a promise that things will be different. Emily and Theo need you in their lives. I need you back in mine, too. For the first time, a genuine smile crossed Michael's face. The great Robert Anderson admitting he needs someone? That's new. Fatherhood changes you, Rob replied. I've only been at it 2 weeks, and I'm already not the same person. Will you bring them to visit me? Rob nodded. As soon as you're ready. Emily's already asking about you. After the prison visit, Rob brought Emily to Anderson Technologies headquarters. She wore a new blue dress and matching headband, but her serious expression remained unchanged as she studied the gleaming lobby with its marble floors and wall of awards. You made all this? She asked, impressed despite herself. With a lot of help, Rob answered, leading her toward the elevators. That's the thing about success, Emily. No one does it alone. As the elevator doors opened on the executive floor, Rob's assistant Megan greeted them with a warm smile. The team is gathered in the main conference room, Mr. Anderson. They're excited to meet Emily properly. Emily slipped her small hand into Rob's, a gesture that filled his heart. Nervous? He asked. She nodded. What if they don't like me? Impossible, Rob assured her. You saved this company. And even if you hadn't, you're my daughter. That makes you pretty special around here. The conference room fell silent as they entered. 12 executives in tailored suits stared at Emily with undisguised curiosity. Rob had been deliberately vague about the circumstances of finding his daughter, sharing only that he'd recently discovered he had a child and was adjusting to parenthood. Everyone, Rob announced, this is my daughter, Emily. Emily, these are the people who helped me run Anderson Technologies. Emily squared her shoulders and faced the room. Hello, she said clearly. It's nice to meet you. Henry Goldman, Rob's attorney, stepped forward with a smile. It's wonderful to officially meet you, Emily. Your father has told us how bright you are. You were at the meeting, Emily observed, with the fake contract. Henry's eyebrows rose in surprise. Yes, I was. And I must say, you spotted something all of us missed. That's because adults don't pay attention to details sometimes, Emily stated matter-of-factly. You were all too busy being angry to look carefully. A chuckle rippled through the room. Rob felt a surge of pride at his daughter's directness. Out of the mouths of babes, Henry murmured. I'm not a baby, Emily corrected him firmly. I'm 8. As the meeting progressed, Rob watched in amazement as Emily charmed his entire executive team. She asked thoughtful questions about the company, particularly about the medical implant division developing treatments for childhood diseases. Near the end of the visit, Rob's phone rang. It was Mrs. Chen, the nanny. Mr. Anderson, she said urgently, there's someone here insisting on seeing you and the children, a woman named Victoria Mills. She's very upset and threatening to call the police if I don't let her in. Rob's blood ran cold. Don't let her in. Call security and... But before he could finish, he heard a commotion in the background, followed by Victoria's voice. Too late, Robert. We need to talk. Now. About your precious daughter and what I know about her mother. And the line went dead. Rob turned to Emily, trying to mask his alarm. We need to go home, sweetheart. Right now. Is it Theo? Is he okay? Fear flashed in Emily's eyes. Theo's fine, Rob assured her, though his heart raced with uncertainty. But Victoria is at our house, and I don't trust her. Emily's face hardened with determination that no 8-year-old should possess. She's not going to hurt my brother. As they rushed to the elevator, Rob couldn't shake the feeling that Victoria's sudden appearance wasn't a coincidence. What could she possibly know about Sarah, and why now, when he was finally building a life with the children? Whatever game Victoria was playing, Rob knew one thing for certain. He would protect Emily and Theo, no matter the cost. Rob's driver broke every speed limit, racing to the penthouse. Beside him, Emily sat rigid, her small face tight with anxiety. When the elevator doors opened, They found Mrs. Chen standing protectively in front of Theo's nursery, her normally serene face flushed with anger. "She's in your office, Mr. Anderson," the nanny whispered. "I wouldn't let her near the baby." Rob squeezed the nanny's shoulder gratefully. "Thank you. Please stay with the children." He found Victoria lounging in his leather chair, leafing through documents she'd taken from his desk. She looked up with a cold smile. "The devoted new father returns," she drawled. "Get out of my house," Rob growled. Victoria held up a hand. "Don't you want to know what I found in Sarah Matthews's medical records?" Rob froze. "How do you even know about Sarah? Did you think I wouldn't investigate when your supposed daughter magically appeared right when I was about to take your company? I have contacts at every hospital in Chicago." She tossed a document onto the desk. "Your precious Sarah worked at Northwestern Memorial while I was treated there. We became quite close." Rob's stomach twisted. "You knew Sarah?" "Cancer creates strange bedfellows," Victoria said. "Support groups, therapy sessions. People share all sorts of stories, including how she once dated a promising entrepreneur who never knew about their child." "So what? Emily is my daughter. DNA confirmed it." "I don't dispute the girl's paternity," Victoria said smoothly. "But did Sarah mention she was investigated for drug theft at the prison? Or that child services flagged her case multiple times for neglect?" Rob's blood ran cold. "You're lying." Victoria slid another document toward him. "Check the records yourself. Your brother wasn't the only addict in Emily's life. Mommy had a problem too." Rob scanned the paper, an internal hospital report on missing medications. Sarah's name appeared, though no charges were filed. "This proves nothing," Rob insisted. "Perhaps she was selling pills to support 2 kids on a nurse's salary." Victoria stood. "I wonder what family court would make of that history, combined with your brother's conviction. Especially if someone raised concerns about children living with an uncle who's been their guardian for 2 whole weeks. This is blackmail." Victoria smiled thinly. "I prefer to call it negotiation. 20% of Anderson Technologies and these records disappear. Fight me, and I'll make sure every judge in Illinois questions whether you and your convict brother are fit guardians. You would use innocent children as pawns." "I'm simply concerned about their welfare," Victoria replied with mock sincerity. "Children deserve stability, don't they?" Rob's mind raced. 20% was worth hundreds of millions, but Emily and Theo were priceless. "Get out," he said quietly. "My lawyer will contact you tomorrow." 48 hours, Victoria warned as she left. Rob slumped into his chair. How had everything unraveled so quickly? "Is she going to take us away?" Rob's head snapped up. Emily stood in the doorway, her thin shoulders squared, despite the fear in her eyes. "You heard," he said. Emily nodded. "Mom didn't steal drugs. She was sick and sometimes took medicine from work because we couldn't afford it, but she always recorded it and paid it back." Rob extended his hand, and Emily came to him, allowing herself to be pulled onto his lap, a rare show of vulnerability. "No one is taking you anywhere," he promised. "I won't let that happen." "What does she want?" "Money, but we're not giving it to her, because we don't negotiate with terrorists," Emily said seriously. "My teacher taught us that." Despite everything, Rob laughed. "That's right. Instead, we're going to fight back." "How?" Rob thought of Henry's evidence against Victoria. There had to be something they could use. "We'll start by talking to Uncle Michael tomorrow," he decided. "If Victoria knew your mom from the hospital, maybe Michael knows something about Victoria we can use." Emily leaned her head against his chest. "Dad?" she asked, testing the word for the first time. Rob's heart swelled. "Yes, sweetheart. We're going to win, right?" He kissed her hair. "Yes, Emily, we're going to win." But as his daughter relaxed against him, Rob wondered if he could keep that promise. Victoria was ruthless and desperate, a dangerous combination, and he had so much more to lose than she did. The prison visiting room hummed with subdued conversations as Rob and Emily sat across from Michael. Rob had been hesitant to bring Emily, but she'd insisted on meeting her uncle. "You have Mom's smile," Michael told her, his eyes crinkling, "and her stubborn chin." Emily studied him intently. "You look like my dad, but different." "Less grey hair," Michael joked, glancing at Rob's temples. "Less stress lines," Emily corrected seriously, making both men laugh. Rob had already briefed Michael about Victoria's threats. Now he leaned forward, lowering his voice. "Did Sarah ever mention Victoria Mills? She was apparently a patient while Sarah worked at Northwestern." Michael's expression darkened. "The name sounds familiar." "Sarah mentioned a wealthy patient who kept offering her private nursing positions with exceptional compensation. Sarah always refused." "Did she say why?" "She thought something felt off." Michael's brow furrowed. "Wait, about 6 months before she died, Sarah visited me really upset. Said this same woman had threatened to report her for stealing medications if she didn't help with something." Rob straightened. "Help with what?" "Sarah wouldn't say exactly, just that it was something illegal involving medical records. She was terrified, but refused to do it." Emily, who had been listening quietly, piped up. "Mum told me once that a bad lady wanted her to change numbers in a computer, but it would hurt people." Michael nodded. "That sounds right. Sarah said whatever this woman wanted would have endangered patients." Rob's mind raced. Anderson Technologies was developing a neural implant that had begun clinical trials at Northwestern, the same hospital where Sarah worked. If Victoria had pressured Sarah to alter trial data. "I need to make some calls," Rob said urgently. "Emily, can you keep Uncle Michael company?" In the hallway, Rob called Henry Goldman. "Check if Victoria was part of any clinical trials at Northwestern. Start with neural implants or brain stimulation. This is urgent. Victoria's given me a 48-hour deadline." Back in the visiting room, Rob found Emily showing Michael a drawing of Theo she'd made. "You're quite the artist," Michael said proudly. "Mom taught me. She said drawing helps you remember things better." The guard announced visiting hours were ending. Michael stood reluctantly. "Promise me you'll protect them both, whatever it takes." "I promise," Rob replied, gripping his brother's hand. As they drove home, Emily stared out the window. "Uncle Michael seems nice. Not like a bad person who should be in prison." Rob sighed. "People make mistakes, Emily. Your uncle had a drug problem that led him to do something illegal. He's paying for that mistake now." "But he's still family," Emily stated firmly. At home, Mrs. Chen greeted them worriedly. "Detective Rivera called twice. He said it's urgent." Rob felt a chill. Had Victoria already made good on her threats? Did he say what it was about? Only that it concerns Ms. Mills and some allegations. Rob knelt before Emily. "Go check on Theo while I make this call." Emily's eyes narrowed. "Is Victoria trying to take us away already?" "No," Rob assured her. "This is probably about the fraud case against her." Once Emily was gone, Rob returned the detective's call. "I'm investigating serious accusations made by Victoria Mills regarding your guardianship," Rivera began. "Those accusations are completely unfounded," Rob replied tensely. "Ms. Mills is currently under investigation herself for attempting to defraud my company of nearly $800 million. I'm aware of those circumstances," Rivera said carefully, "which is why I wanted to speak with you directly before proceeding. Ms. Mills has submitted documentation suggesting the children's mother was involved in prescription theft and neglect. Documentation she obtained illegally," Rob countered. "Detective, Victoria Mills has explicitly blackmailed me, demanding company shares in exchange for dropping these false allegations. That's a serious accusation, Mr. Anderson. One I can prove. I recorded our conversation yesterday." Another pause. "I'd like to see that recording and speak with the children." "Of course," Rob agreed, relief flooding through him. But detective, there's more. I believe she may have been involved in tampering with clinical trial data at Northwestern Hospital. After arranging for the detective to visit, Rob's phone rang again. Henry, this time. You were right, his lawyer said. Victoria Mills was patient zero in the neural implant trial. And guess who was her nurse? Sarah Matthews. So Victoria had access to Sarah through the trial, Rob reasoned. But what was she trying to accomplish? According to the records, Victoria showed remarkable improvement with the implant, too remarkable. Her results were statistical outliers that helped secure the next funding round. Rob's blood ran cold. She was trying to get Sarah to falsify results to make the treatment look more effective than it was. Exactly. And if those results were used to secure FDA approvals or funding, that's fraud on a massive scale, Rob finished. But why? What's Victoria's connection beyond being a patient? I'm still digging, but preliminary research shows Victoria's father sits on the board of Neurovance, the pharmaceutical company, partnering with Northwestern on the trials. Detective Rivera interviewed Emily the next day, while Rob waited anxiously nearby. The detective was younger than Rob had expected, mid-30s, with alert eyes that missed nothing. "Are you happy here, Emily?" Rivera asked gently. "I am," she answered. "For the first time since Mum got sick, I don't have to worry all the time." Her voice grew smaller. "Dad makes sure we have food, and Theo has milk. He reads me stories, and he's helping me start at a new school." After Emily returned to help Mrs. Chen with Theo, Rivera turned to Rob. "Mr. Anderson, I'll be filing my report today. These allegations appear to be retaliatory and without merit. I'll recommend no further action regarding your guardianship." Relief washed over Rob. "Thank you, Detective. One more thing. This recording of Ms. Mills captures a clear attempt at blackmail. Would you be willing to press charges?" Rob considered this. Criminal charges would neutralize Victoria's threat, but also create a public spectacle that might affect the children. "Let me consult with my attorney. There are other aspects of Ms. Mills's activities we're investigating that might be more effective leverage." After Rivera left, Rob updated Henry, who shared good news of his own. "Dr. Patel contacted me directly. They've launched a formal review of Victoria's trial data and found significant anomalies." "That was fast," Rob remarked. "Apparently there were already concerns. Your information was the catalyst they needed." Henry paused. "Rob, Neurovance stock jumped 20% after preliminary results from Victoria's trial group were leaked last year. Let me guess. Victoria's father benefited?" "Substantially. SEC filings show he exercised options and sold shares worth approximately $12 million shortly after the leak. Securities fraud on top of everything else." "Precisely. The SEC would be very interested." "So we have options," Rob summarized. "Criminal charges for blackmail, medical ethics violations, and potential securities fraud." "A formidable arsenal," Henry agreed. "How do you want to proceed?" Rob thought of Emily's resilience and Michael's regrets, of Sarah, who'd protected her integrity even when threatened. "Set up a meeting for tomorrow. Victoria, her attorney, you, and me." "And the terms?" "Full confession to the attempted blackmail and data manipulation. She signs an agreement never to contact me or the children again. In exchange, we don't pursue criminal charges or go public." "She might not agree," Henry warned. "Oh, she will," Rob said confidently, "because the alternative is watching her entire world collapse from a prison cell." As he hung up, Rob felt Emily's presence behind him. She had an uncanny ability to appear when important decisions were being made. "Is it over?" she asked hopefully. "Almost," Rob promised, opening his arms. This time Emily came without hesitation, allowing herself to be embraced. "Just one more meeting and Victoria won't bother us again." Emily nodded against his chest. "Good." Because I've been thinking about Theo's birthday next month. He'll be turning 2. We should have a party. Rob smiled, marveling at his daughter's ability to focus on what truly mattered, family and moving forward. A party sounds perfect, he agreed, with cake and presents and everyone we love. Even Uncle Michael, Emily asked. Rob hesitated. Prison regulations made such visits nearly impossible. We'll bring the party to him, he decided. Photos, videos, maybe a special visitation. Emily beamed up at him. You're a good dad, she said simply. The words filled a hole in Rob's heart he hadn't known existed. The next morning, Rob entered the conference room at Anderson Technologies with Henry. Victoria arrived shortly after, wearing a cream-colored suit that made her look deceptively angelic, but her eyes were cold. This better be worth my time, she said tartly. I believe my 48-hour deadline hasn't expired. I've already made my decision, Rob replied evenly. That's why we're here. Victoria smiled triumphantly. Excellent. I assume you've brought the transfer documents for my 20% stake? Not exactly. Rob nodded to Henry, who slid a different document across the table. This is a confession, a non-disclosure agreement. You'll admit to attempting to blackmail me and to pressuring Sarah Matthews to falsify clinical trial data. Victoria's face contorted with rage. You're insane if you think I'd sign that. Actually, Henry interjected smoothly, we've compiled quite a compelling case. Detective Rivera has recommended charges based on the recording. Doctor, Patel has identified anomalies in your trial data and confirmed your undisclosed relationship to Neurovance's board, and the SEC is very interested in the correlation between your manipulated results and your father's $12 million stock sale. Victoria turned to her attorney, who looked increasingly uncomfortable. Caldwell, tell them this is nonsense. The lawyer cleared his throat. Ms. Mills, I've reviewed their evidence. The recording alone is problematic, combined with the ethics violations and securities fraud. You're my lawyer. Act like it. I'm advising you to consider their offer carefully, Caldwell replied stiffly. The alternative could include significant jail time. Victoria's composure cracked. This is absurd, Robert. After everything we meant to each other, we meant nothing to each other, Rob interrupted coldly. You proved that when you tried to steal my company, and again when you threatened my children. Those brats aren't even... Choose your next words carefully, Rob warned, his voice dropping dangerously. Those brats are my family. Emily is my daughter. Theo is my nephew. And they are worth more to me than every dollar, every share, every patent this company has ever produced. Something shifted in Victoria's expression, perhaps the realization that she'd lost not just the battle, but the war. What happens if I sign? She asked, her voice smaller. You walk away, Rob answered simply. No charges, no public scandal, no SEC investigation. You leave Chicago, end your participation in the neural implant trial, and never contact me or my family again. Victoria stared at the document, weighing her options. Finally, she reached for a pen. I want to make one thing clear, she said as she signed. I never intended to harm patients. I just needed those results to look better. Tell that to the people who would have received a faulty implant, Rob replied. But since you've signed, that's a conversation you'll never have to have publicly. After Victoria and her attorney left, Henry collected the signed confession. Congratulations, Rob. This chapter is officially closed. As Rob headed home to share the good news, he noticed a black sedan parked across from his building, its occupant watching intently. Rob instructed his driver to circle the block while he called security. When they returned, a security guard was speaking with the sedan's driver, a severe-looking woman in her 60s with steel-grey hair. Rob approached cautiously. Is there a problem here? The woman turned, assessing him with sharp blue eyes. Mr. Anderson? I'm Margaret Wilson, Department of Children and Family Services. I need to speak with you regarding Emily and Theodore Matthews. Rob's stomach dropped. I thought Detective Rivera cleared this matter. Detective Rivera handles criminal investigations. I handle child welfare. May we speak privately? Inside the penthouse, Emily was working on a puzzle with Mrs. Chen while Theo napped. She looked up as Rob entered with the social worker, her expression immediately wary. "Emily, this is Miss Wilson. She needs to ask us a few questions." Once the nanny had left, Margaret Wilson sat across from them, opening a folder. "Emily, I understand you've had quite a few changes recently. How are you adjusting to living with Mr. Anderson?" Emily glanced at Rob before answering. "He's my dad, and he takes good care of us." "I'm sure he does," Wilson replied neutrally. "But I need to make certain that this home is in your best interest long term. Your situation is unusual." Rob intervened. "Ms. Wilson, I have DNA confirmation of my paternity, and I've filed for formal adoption. As for Theo, I'm his uncle and nearest relative with his father incarcerated." "Yes, I've reviewed those filings," Wilson acknowledged, "but there are concerns about the suddenness of these arrangements and your lack of parenting experience." "With all due respect," Rob countered, "I may be new to parenting, but I love these children. I've arranged for Emily to start school next week. She has a therapist to help her process her mother's death. Theo has regular pediatrician visits." Wilson made notes without comment. "Emily, do you miss your old home?" Emily's chin lifted defiantly. "We didn't have a home after Mom died. We stayed with Mrs. Finch, but before that, we got evicted. Dad gave us bedrooms and food and books." "And you're comfortable here? Safe?" "Yes," Emily said firmly, "and so is Theo." Wilson turned back to Rob. "Normally we require home studies, parenting classes, and a longer transition period before permanent placement. However, given the biological relationship and the children's clear attachment to you..." She closed her folder. "I'll recommend continued monitoring, but no removal at this time." Relief washed over Rob. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet," Wilson cautioned. "I'll be checking in regularly. These children have experienced significant trauma and upheaval. They need consistency, therapy, and patience." "They'll have all of that and more," Rob promised. After showing Wilson out, Rob found Emily still sitting rigidly on the sofa. "Is she going to take us away?" she asked, her voice small. "No, sweetheart. She just wanted to make sure you and Theo are happy here." "And she believes we are." Rob sat beside her. "She does. And more importantly, are you? Happy here, I mean?" Emily considered with characteristic seriousness. "I miss Mom," she admitted. "Sometimes I wake up and forget she's gone. Then I remember." Rob put his arm around her thin shoulders. "That's normal, Emily. You'll probably always miss her. But that doesn't mean you can't be happy here too." "I am happy," she decided. "Especially now that Victoria won't bother us anymore." Rob smiled. "How did you know about Victoria?" "Your face is different, less worried." Emily leaned against him. "Did she sign the paper?" "She did. She's going to leave Chicago and never contact us again." Emily nodded, satisfied. "Good, because we have Theo's birthday to plan, and Uncle Michael's visiting day next week, and my new school starts Monday." She looked up at him. "Life is busy when you're not just trying to survive." Rob hugged her closer, marveling at her resilience and wisdom. "Yes, it certainly is." 3 months later, Rob was preparing breakfast while Emily packed her lunch for school. Theo sat in his high chair, happily smashing banana pieces. The penthouse had transformed. Toys in the living room, artwork on the refrigerator, a calendar full of school events and play dates. "Dad, can you sign my permission slip?" Emily slid a form across the counter. "We're going to the planetarium on Friday." Rob wiped his hands and reached for a pen. "Planning to become an astronaut now?" Emily rolled her eyes, but she was smiling. "No, but space is interesting. Did you know there are more stars in the universe than grains of sand on all of Earth's beaches?" "Very impressive," Rob admitted, signing the form. "Ms. Jackson says I should consider entering the science fair next month. I'm thinking about a project on neural networks. Rob raised an eyebrow. That's advanced for fourth grade. The brain is interesting, Emily shrugged. Plus, after what Victoria tried to do with those implants, I want to understand how they're supposed to work. The doorbell rang. Rob checked his watch, frowning. Are you expecting anyone? She shook her head, already moving to help Theo. Rob opened the door to find Detective Rivera standing there, his expression grave. Mr. Anderson, may I come in? There's been a development you need to know about. Alarm shot through Rob as he stepped aside. Is this about Victoria? Has she violated the agreement? Rivera glanced toward the kitchen. Perhaps we could speak privately? In the office, Rivera delivered shocking news. Victoria Mills was found dead in her Lake Geneva home yesterday, apparent suicide. Rob sank into his chair. My God, are you certain? Dude, the Wisconsin police are investigating, but she left a note. Rivera handed him a copy. I can no longer live with what I've done. The trial data was fabricated entirely. There were no improvements. The implants caused severe side effects I concealed. 3 patients have died. Robert Anderson was right to stop me. I'm sorry. Rob looked up, stunned. 3 patients died? I had no idea it was this severe. Neither did Northwestern until they began their investigation. The FDA has launched a criminal probe, and Neurovance's stock has tanked. Victoria's father? Under investigation by the SEC, they've frozen his assets. Rivera took back the note. Mr. Anderson, I need to ask, when was your last contact with Ms. Mills? Rob understood the implication. The day she signed the non-disclosure agreement. Neither I nor anyone associated with me has contacted her since. I figured as much, but had to ask. Her note essentially exonerates you while condemning herself. I never wished her dead, Rob said quietly. I just wanted her away from my family. No one's suggesting otherwise, Rivera assured him. However, there is one more complication. In her will, updated just after your meeting, Victoria left her entire estate to Emily and Theodore Matthews. Rob stared at him. What? Why would she do that? The will doesn't explain her reasoning. But given the circumstances and her guilt, perhaps it was an attempt at atonement. How much are we talking about? Initial estimates put it around $30 million in assets, mostly property and investments. After Rivera left, Rob remained in his office, processing this unexpected turn. The door opened, and Emily stood there with her backpack. Mrs. Chen is getting Theo dressed. I'm ready for school. She studied his face. What's wrong? Rob decided against shielding her from the truth. Emily had endured too many adults hiding difficult truths from her. Victoria died, he said gently. She took her own life. She felt guilty about what she'd done with the medical trials. People were hurt because of the false data. Emily absorbed this silently, then asked, Are we in trouble because of it? No, sweetheart. Victoria left a note explaining everything. We're not involved. He paused. There's something else. Victoria left money for you and Theo in her will. Emily's brow furrowed. Why would she do that? She didn't even like us. I think she was trying to make amends in her own way. We don't need her money, Emily stated firmly. We have you. Rob smiled at her loyalty. True. But someday, this money could help you go to college or start a business or travel the world. Emily considered this. Can we use some of it now? For something important? What did you have in mind? Uncle Michael gets out of prison in 2.5 years, Emily said. He'll need a place to live and a job. Maybe we could save it for him. To help him start over with Theo. Rob stared at his daughter, humbled by her compassion and foresight. At 9 years old, she was already thinking about how to secure her family's future. That's a wonderful idea, he agreed. We can set up a trust for both of you, with some funds designated specifically to help your uncle when he's released. Emily nodded, satisfied. Good, because family takes care of family. That's what Mom always said. 2 years later, Rob stood beside Emily in the prison parking lot, watching her fidget with her jacket zipper. At 11, she'd grown taller, her once thin frame filling out thanks to regular meals and swim team. "Are you nervous?" he asked, placing a hand on her shoulder. Emily shook her head unconvincingly. "No, it's just different this time. Everything's going to change." Rob understood her anxiety. Today wasn't a routine visit to Michael. Today, Michael was coming home, released early for good behavior and completion of an addiction treatment program. "Change can be good," Rob reminded her. "Uncle Michael has worked hard for this day." "I know. I just hope Theo remembers him." Rob glanced at the car where 3-year-old Theo waited with Mrs. Chen. The monthly prison visits had maintained their connection, but recognition sometimes flickered uncertainly in his eyes when he saw his father. "Theo knows Michael is his dad," Rob assured her. "We've made sure of that with all the photos and video calls." Emily nodded, squinting at the prison entrance. "There he is." Michael emerged carrying a small duffel bag, looking healthier than Rob had seen him in years. Prison had aged him, but sobriety had restored some of his vitality. Emily broke into a run, launching herself into her uncle's arms. Michael caught her, laughing as he spun her around. "Look at you," he exclaimed, setting her down. "You've grown a foot." 6¼ inches, actually, Emily corrected with a grin. "Dad's been measuring on the kitchen wall." Michael embraced Rob next, the brothers holding each other tightly. "Thank you," Michael whispered, "for everything." They walked to the car where Theo stood beside Mrs. Chen, shyly watching their approach. Michael knelt to Theo's level. "Hey, buddy, do you remember me?" Theo studied him before asking, "Are you my daddy from the computer?" Michael laughed softly. "Yes, that's me, not in the computer anymore." "You're staying with us now?" "That's right, if that's okay with you." Theo considered this gravely before nodding. "Okay. Can you play trucks?" Emily only likes books. That evening, their penthouse hummed with celebratory energy. After Theo fell asleep, exhausted from excitement, the adults gathered with Emily, who had negotiated a later bedtime. "Everything set for Monday?" Rob asked Michael. Michael nodded. "First day at Anderson Technologies. Still feels surreal." I said during his incarceration, Michael had completed a computer science degree through a prison education program. Rob had created a position for him in IT, a real job with growth potential, not charity. "The team's looking forward to having you," Rob assured him. Emily, curled up on the sofa, asked, "Where will Theo go to school? Is he staying at Little Learners?" Michael exchanged a glance with Rob. "Actually, we wanted to talk to you about some changes coming up." Emily sat straighter, instantly alert. "What kind of changes?" Rob moved to sit beside her. "Good ones, Em. Uncle Michael will be living here for a while, but eventually he'll want his own place with Theo." "They're leaving?" Emily's voice rose with alarm. "Not leaving," Michael clarified quickly, "just moving nearby. You and Theo are so close, we'd never separate you, but as his father, I need to start building a home with him." "When?" Emily demanded. "Not for at least 6 months," Rob assured her. "Michael needs time to settle into his job, and we need to find the right place, somewhere in this neighborhood, so you can see Theo every day if you want." Emily processed this thoughtfully. "I guess that makes sense. Theo should live with his dad, like I live with mine." Rob squeezed her hand gratefully. "Exactly. And there's something else we want to discuss. Michael will be formally adopting Theo, and I'd like to make your adoption official as well, Emily." Emily looked between them. "But I'm already your daughter. The DNA test proved it." "You are," Rob agreed. "But legally your last name is still Matthews. With adoption, you could change it to Anderson." "Anderson," Emily tested the name. "Emily Anderson." She considered it, then asked, "What about Mom? If I change my name, am I forgetting her?" "Never," Rob said firmly. "Your mother will always be part of who you are. We could make Matthews your middle name." "Emily Matthews Anderson," she said slowly. "I like that." Michael smiled. "What do you think, kiddo? Ready for all these changes?" Emily was quiet for a moment, then asked, "Will we still be a family? All of us together?" "Always," Rob promised. "Family isn't about living under the same roof. It's about being there for each other, no matter what." 1 year later, Rob straightened his tie as he surveyed the ballroom of the Palmer House Hilton. The annual Anderson Technologies Charity Gala was raising funds for children in foster care, a cause that had become deeply personal over the past 3 years. "Dad, Uncle Michael is looking for you." Emily appeared at his side, elegant in her first formal dress, midnight blue with silver stars. At 12, she still had her serious demeanor, but smiled more easily now. "Thanks, sweetheart. You look beautiful tonight." Emily rolled her eyes, but couldn't hide her pleased expression. "Maddie says we can sit together during dinner. Is that okay?" "Of course." Rob smiled at his daughter's newfound interest in socializing. He found Michael near the stage, supervising 4-year-old Theo, who was fascinated by the audio equipment. "There you are," Michael greeted him. "Nervous about your speech?" Rob shook his head. "Not with my good luck charm in the audience." He winked at Theo, who beamed back. In the past year, Michael and Theo had moved into a condo 3 blocks away, close enough for daily visits, but giving Michael space to fully embrace his role as Theo's father. Both adoptions were finalized, and both children were thriving. Michael, too, had flourished at Anderson Technologies, recently being promoted to head of cybersecurity, a position earned through hard work, not family connections. "By the way," Michael said, lowering his voice, "that woman from the Children's Foundation keeps looking at you. The one in the green dress." Rob followed his gaze to a striking woman with auburn hair. Dr. Olivia Chen. She's the child psychologist who developed our trauma support program. "She's been working with Emily's class on peer mentoring," Michael noted. "Emily adores her." "She's excellent at her job," Rob agreed, avoiding his brother's knowing look. "And single, according to Emily's reconnaissance." Rob laughed. "Are you and my daughter conspiring now?" Before Rob could respond, Henry approached with Dr. Chen beside him. "Rob, you remember Dr. Chen?" Henry said with poorly disguised matchmaking intentions. "She has some incredible results to share about the program you funded." "Mr. Anderson, thank you again for your support," Olivia said, shaking his hand. "The children in our program have shown remarkable progress. Please, call me Rob, and the foundation should be thanking you. Your expertise has been invaluable." "Dad!" Emily hurried over. "Oh, hi, Dr. Chen." Her delighted expression confirmed Michael's claims about her approval. As Rob excused himself for his speech, he watched Emily enthusiastically explaining her science fair project to Dr. Chen, who listened with genuine interest. Standing at the podium moments later, Rob surveyed the room, filled with Chicago's elite. His gaze found his family at their table. Emily, sitting tall and proud, Theo fidgeting but trying his best, Michael watching attentively, and Dr. Chen had joined them, helping Theo with his napkin. They looked like a family, a real, complete family. 3 years ago," Rob began, "my life changed forever when a young girl walked into my boardroom and pointed out an impossible date on a fraudulent contract. She saved my company with that simple observation. But more importantly, she saved me." He met Emily's eyes, seeing them widen in surprise. "What I didn't know that day was that she was my daughter, a child I never knew existed, who had lost her mother and was caring for her baby cousin, desperate enough to approach a stranger for help." A hush fell over the ballroom. "That day taught me that success isn't measured by stock prices or profit margins. It's measured by the lives we touch, the family we build, and the legacy we create for our children. Rob gestured toward his table. My daughter Emily and my nephew Theo taught me that family comes in many forms. Sometimes it's biological, sometimes it's chosen, and sometimes it walks right into your life when you least expect it. Later that evening, Rob found himself on the terrace with Olivia Chen, watching the Chicago skyline glitter against the night sky. That was a beautiful speech, she said. Emily was floating on air afterward. Rob smiled. She deserves the recognition. Not many 8-year-olds would have had her courage or determination. She's remarkable, Olivia agreed, but she had to grow up too quickly. I'm glad she's getting to be a child now. Me too. Rob hesitated, then asked, would you like to have dinner sometime? Just the two of us? Olivia's smile was warm. I'd like that very much. Inside, Emily watched them through the glass doors, a satisfied smile on her lips. Are Dad and Dr. Chen going to get married? Theo asked, his small face serious as he followed her gaze. Maybe someday, Emily replied, but not right away. Grown-ups take forever to figure these things out. Michael laughed, ruffling his son's hair. Some of us need a little help sometimes. Like how Emily helped Uncle Rob find us, Theo said with the simple clarity of a 4-year-old. Exactly like that, Michael agreed, glancing at his niece with affection. Emily turned away from the terrace doors, a sense of contentment washing over her. 3 years ago, she'd walked into a boardroom desperate and afraid, with nothing but a worn backpack and determination to save her baby cousin. Now she had a father who loved her, an uncle who was healing, a cousin who adored her, friends at school, and maybe, someday, a stepmother who understood her, all because of an impossible date on a contract. February 30th, a date that didn't exist, had created a family that very much did.